Good evening. I hope everybody can hear me. Charlie has asked particularly that we make sure that you can hear us. If you can, raise your hand. Is it too loud or loud? Good. All right, this is the meeting for the Pownal School District, the warning of the annual meeting, February 29th, March 1st, 2016. We have a number of articles. We have 5 articles that need to be voted on here by the assembly people, and then we have a remaining articles that will be voted tomorrow at the firehouse. As always, just to remind you that anybody that would like to speak to a particular article certainly can do so simply by raising his or her hand, giving your name, and coming up to the microphone. If you are not a resident of Pownal, please say so, and generally speaking, what we do, we just ask for the approval of the people here at the meeting to have you speak. Very good. Article 1, to hear the reports of the school board and other officials of the district and take action thereon. We just need a motion. Someone say, I move. Second, we'll take over. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed or abstentions? Go on to Article 2, to establish the annual salary of the school directors at $1,200. Do you have a motion again? Crystal, thank you very much. And we have a second? Second, over there, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed or abstentions? Good. We move on to Article 3. Excuse me. To authorize the school board acting on behalf of the district to borrow money at the issuance of interest-bearing notes not to exceed the anticipated revenue for the school year. Again, I ask for a motion. Marty, thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any
Who was
discussion?
that? Second.
I have a second.
Who was it though?
The gentleman in the red pants?
Thank you.
She knows who that is. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed or abstentions? Can move then on to Article 4, to hold a public informational meeting on articles to be voted upon by Australian ballot on March 1st, 2016.
No move.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Who was that?
Karen.
Karen.
It's here. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed or abstentions? Thank you. And the last article, to transact any other business found proper when met. Somebody.
So moved.
Have another second.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Very good. Now I'm going to read Articles A, B, C, and D, and after that ask for any comments that people may have on them. These articles, these 4 articles, once again, will be voted on at the firehouse tomorrow. To elect the legal voters of the district a moderator for the term of 1 year beginning immediately. Article B, to elect from the legal voters of the district 1 school board director for the term of 3 years beginning immediately. Article C, to elect from the legal voters of the district 2 school directors, each for a term of 1 year beginning immediately. And the last article, Article D, shall the voters of the school district approve the school board to expend $4,891,898, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. It is estimated that this projected budget, if approved, will result in educational spending of $14,559 per equalized student. This projected spending per student is 0.86% lower than the spending for the current year. Any questions on that?
Tim, can I make a comment?
Yeah, sure. Is there, used to be a, yeah, let me bring this to you.
I'll just real quick. Jim O'Connor, I'm on the school board. Article D, the language and format of Article D was mandated by the recently passed Act 46, the exact language. I'd like to bring to your attention the amount of $14,559. These two numbers, the 4.8 million and the 14,000, okay, are mandated by the state to be in here, but they have nothing to do with each other. All right. If you divide the 14,000 into the 4.8 million, you come up with 336 students. We're here at Pownal, we only have 240 students. For some reason, they rolled in all the federal money, etc. Somebody else could probably explain it to you. But the $14,000 does not connect to the $4.8 million. Thank you.
Are there any other questions of the school board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Very good. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Meeting's adjourned until 7:30. Good evening. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Before we begin the regular business that has been on the agenda, Ms. Ryder has asked me to be able to speak to you about a report that he will go into some detail about.
Thank you, Mr. Holbrook. As you notice in this year's town report, there was no letter from the select board. I had missed the deadline to get my letter in. However, I will read the letter for you tonight, and there are copies of it on the table right there, okay? So greetings. It's hard to believe another year has come and gone. The select board continues to move forward with town business. Progress over the last year. Pownal has seen the opening of the new SVMC Health Clinic located on Route 7. It is a beautiful state-of-the-art facility which is open to serve the general public. Our street lights have all been converted to LED bulbs. We did this through a program with Green Mountain Power. We, the town of Pownal, will see a reduction in costs for lighting our roads and streets. TAM is up and running, their recycling plant located at the old Northeast Wood Products site. And as you all know, recycling will become more and more prevalent for households as well as businesses in the near future. The town has hired the Bennington County Sheriff's Department to provide law enforcement and patrol our town and the town roads. Pownal has a new website, www.townofpownal.com. It is a work in progress, and as information gets added, it will be beneficial for all. The town purchased one new one-ton truck with a plow, along with a used tractor to better serve our roads and community. As you know, last winter was one of the toughest winters we had in quite some time, and I think our road crew did an outstanding job of keeping our roads open. Our equipment, yes, they deserve it. Our equipment for the road department is aging, and the select board is trying to upgrade equipment as money allows, offsetting the high cost of repairs and maintenance. This will be an ongoing process. A new salt shed will be built soon next to the highway garage to house the town's salt and sand. We've needed this for some time now. It's been a real nightmare, and that'll be coming to fruition very soon. A new sidewalk, front steps, and railings were installed at the current town office building to bring us in compliance with the ADA guidelines, and work continues on the inside to remediate the problems associated with an old building. The transfer station recently received recertification for both the closed landfill and the facility. Moving forward, the wastewater treatment facility continues to function efficiently and seamlessly thanks to the staff down there as well. We need to develop ideas on how we can attract new business and developers to invest in the town of Pownal. The town of Pownal aggressively searches for state and federal grants to help us pay for some of the projects we have in the town and to help offset taxes as much as possible. The town office committee continues to pursue different avenues and ideas for a new town hall. As a select board, we are trying to plan for the future, working on ways to reduce maintenance costs, improve working conditions for the employees, and working with town staff on methods to improve services provided by the town to our townspeople. I personally would like to thank you for your support over the last 3 years. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve on the select board for the town of Pownal. Respectfully submitted, Rich Ryder, Select Board Chairman.
Thank you, Rich. Well, again, I welcome you to the town meeting. As you know, members of the community, members of Pownal are welcome to speak, and I hope that you will. Once again, if you are not a member of the community and wish to speak, when you identify yourself, please state that you are not a member, and then it's up to the assembled group to accept your speech, or whatever you want to say. Okay, we have 3 articles that we vote on first, and then we have a series of articles that we'll be voting on tomorrow at the firehouse. The first 3 articles are to hear reports of town officials and take action thereon. We need a motion for that.
I so move.
Very good. We have a second there. Second. Thank you. And I'm sorry.
Robertson.
And the person, Jim Winchester. Very good. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Article 2, to see if the voters will authorize its treasurer to receive taxes until they become delinquent. Once again, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed or abstentions? And Article 3, the election of all officers required by law. Once again, we need another motion. Thank you, Jim Kosis, and the second.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, excuse me. Yes?
Are we going to find out who's running for what here tonight?
We can certainly, it is not in one of the articles by name. It simply is that one of the articles addresses the fact that we will, at tomorrow's meeting, at the firehouse, you will be voting for the individuals. It is not appropriate really to make political speeches at this time. This is a general information meeting. You can find out who is running when you get to the ballot box tomorrow.
Well, that's a little late. Isn't there anyone that knows?
I'm sure there is. Charlie, do you remember if it's appropriate to read those names off?
Say that again?
Do you remember if it's appropriate to read the names off of those people that are running for office?
Well, we always did. Everybody had a chance to get up and talk if they wanted to.
Okay, so we can do that. Does anybody have a list of those people that are running for school board offices? All right, Karen can tell us, go ahead.
Moderator, you.
Yes, moderator me.
The 3-year term, Tammy Soul is running. She's running for re-election.
Tammy Soul,
3-year term.
3-year term.
Okay. And then Angie Rowling
Angie Rawling,
and Todd Steinhoff. This is first time running for 1-year seats. 1-year seats.
right, Todd Steinhoff for one of the
1-year seats.
1-year seats.
And the other is Angie Rowling.
And Angie Rawling, you mentioned that. What about for selectmen?
For selectmen, for 3-year term, you have 2 people running. One is Jason Olansky, I'm sorry,
Jason Olansky,
running for 3-year term. John Bashy Jr.,
John Bashy Jr.,
3-year term, and then there's two 1-year seats.
do you remember who they
Oh,
are?
no, there's 2 seats, is what I meant, I'm sorry. So 2 seats and 3 people are running.
2 seats, 3 people running?
Ron Bisson, Henry Strohmeyer, and Brandon Jacobson.
Ron Bisson, Henry Strohmeyer, and
Brandon Jacobson.
Brandon Jacobson.
And there are no other races, actually.
There are no other races.
There are other people running, but no races.
Does that hopefully answer your question? You could get a copy of the actual ballot earlier if you like, sometime by stop. Do you have it at the town office?
They've been posted at the town office.
They're posted at the town office, and if you'd like, I'm sure you can stop by there first thing in the
There
morning.
won't be anybody here working for Don during the election.
Well, wrong again. Let's see what else.
Well, they'll be outside the polling place on the wall.
They'll be outside the polling place on the wall. Next year, they are available at the town office in the future. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. All right. I'll read the article and ask if there are any comments on it. You don't need to vote on it. Shall the voters appropriate $889,720 for the general expenses of the town, of which $504,284.99 is raised by taxes, and $335.01 for prior undesignated surplus funds. Comments on that? Article 5. Shall the voters appropriate $737,250 for the maintenance construction of highways of the town, of which $595,471.41 shall be raised by taxes, and $6,878.60 from prior year's undesignated surplus funds. Number 6. Shall the voters appropriate $500 for the support of the Bennington Community Conservation District? Number 7. Shall the town of Pownal vote to raise approximately and expend the sum of $2,000 for the support of the Bennington Free Clinic? Would you like to speak to that? 8. Shall the voters appropriate $2,000 towards the support of Bennington Project Independence? 9. Shall the voters appropriate $1,000 for the support of the services rendered to the town by the Green Mountain Retired Senior Volunteer Program and Volunteer Center? 10. Shall the voters appropriate $200 for the support of Vermont Green Up? 11. Shall the voters appropriate $5,000 towards the support of Oak Hill Children's Center? Would we like to speak to that? All right. 12. Shall the voters appropriate $60,000 towards the operation and maintenance of the Pownal Fire Protection Association, Inc.? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Keith Coon, the Chief of the Pownal Fire Department. I would like to thank the town people for their support and the membership of the Pownal Fire Department. Appreciate that.
Thank you. We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Shall the voters appropriate $3,000 towards support of the Bennington Senior Citizen Center? Pownal. Let me read it again, I'm sorry. Shall the voters appropriate $3,000 towards support of the Pownal Senior Citizen Center? Got it right that time. 14, shall the voters appropriate $50,000 for the Pownal Rescue Squad towards ambulance replacement, insurance, operation, and maintenance? Yes.
For all now, Pownal Rescue Squad, just want to thank everyone for the support over the years. Hopefully we can do serve the community and the future.
Thank you. Does everybody hear that? Well, we all appreciate the support that you and all the other people supply to the town. 15, shall the voters appropriate $2,500 towards the Pownal Valley Fair Association Community Fireworks Program? Jim?
There's 2 times a year that we come together, here tonight and at the fireworks. On the subject of fireworks, we've had a lot of meetings here, and I can tell you one thing, there's 2 people in this room, we didn't dedicate the book to anybody this year, but in my lifetime here, the Honorable Charles Palmer, who served as well in the legislature, the moderator for a long time, you asked him a question, and you, sir, Kim Holbrook, for your keeping us civil and your dedication into the school boards.
Thank you, Jim. Shall the voters appropriate for the operation and maintenance of the Pownal Valley Fire Department, consisting of the East Pownal Fire Company, Pownal Center Company, and the North Pownal Fire Company, the sum of $52,000? Yes.
My name is Walter Clark, I'm the chief of the Pownal Valley Fire Department, and the officers and members would like to thank everybody for continuing to report. We try very hard to keep the budget where it is, running 3 stations. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Shall the voters appropriate $19,500 towards the Pownal Valley Fire Department Fire Truck and Equipment Fund? 18. Shall the town of Pownal vote to raise approximated and expend the sum of $2,000 for the support of the Pownal Youth Baseball? Yes.
I'm Crystal Gardner, I'm the treasurer of the Pownal Youth Baseball. As you all know, there's not a lot.
Can everybody hear? Would you like to use it?
That's all right. My name is Crystal Gardner. I'm the treasurer of the Pownal Youth Baseball. As you all know, there's not a whole lot for our kids to do in town. We take care of maintaining the 346 baseball field, the old school property. Last year, we put in brand new fencing because we had issues with people driving on our field. This year, we're asking for some town support because we need to put in a new batting cage and we need to fix their scoreboard. And try to keep the kids busy.
Thank you, Crystal. Shall the voters appropriate $500 for the support services rendered to the town by the Project Against Violent Encounters? 20. Shall the voters appropriate $15,000 for the operation and maintenance of the Solomon Wright Library? Yes. We have 2 people speaking. Let the gentleman in the red pants first. That's you. Let our red, we'll let you speak first.
My name is Walt Klinger, and I do work with the Pownal Historical Society. And once again, we are indebted to the library as our home. We use the library quite frequently for our various meetings. We have a very ambitious schedule this year. There's some schedules up front if anybody's interested in attending or joining. And we're much indebted to the library for their helping us with carrying on the effort to have everyone understand and celebrate our history. The Historical Society has a very ambitious program going on for the next several years, working towards 2020, when we're hoping to have a tri-state celebration of the Dutch heritage. The The Dutch were here in the early 1700s before the English came, and so we're working on a program to try to bring that to the front and hopefully have lots of people come and enjoy the heritage that we have here in our town. And we thank the library for 50 years of service to the town.
Thank you very much.
My name is Willie Jones. I am part of the board of directors for Solomon Wright Public Library. And on behalf of the other board of directors and our executive director, Linda Hall, I just want to thank the voters of Pownal for supporting us for these many years. There is a little flyer that has been left in some of the chairs tonight. This explains to you many of the things that are going on at the library throughout the year. The most important thing, though, is to remember what this gentleman just said. It is 50 years that the library has been up and going. So we are going to, now Jim, town meeting, fireworks. We're going to add one more thing to that list because the library, celebrating the 50 years, we're going to have a big bash in the summer. A big old birthday party for the Solomon Wright Public Library. It'll be fun for old folks, for young folks. There's going to be some music, probably some dancing. There's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope everybody will be able to join us. That will be later on in the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. For those that aren't aware of it, that don't have good Wi-Fi connections, the library offers a great opportunity to get your things downloaded without having to have them cut off. Hopefully soon we'll all be able to have good internet service. Shall the voters appropriate $1,200 for the support of the services rendered to the town by the Southwestern Vermont Area Council on Aging? Shall the voters appropriate $2,500 towards the support Sunrise Family Resource Center, not-for-profit agency?
Hi, my name is Amelia Silver. I'm the development director at Sunrise, and I'm also the family development coordinator. So I supervise our staff who do a lot of the home visiting with families in Pownal and all over Bennington County. This is the first time we've asked for town funding from Pownal, at least in my memory, probably the last 12 years. And the letter that I wrote in support of our request was just mistakenly left out of the town report. And that's what I was handing out when I first came in, and I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the Pownal town meeting was so wonderfully attended. I think we probably have the best attendance, because I know in Bennington there aren't this many people in the room tonight. Which is really great to see how many people come out for this. So I'm sorry I didn't have a letter for everybody. I think this side of the room got sort of a short shrift, but if you want to see what the letter is, you can ask some of your neighbors over on this side. And also David Adams very kindly printed it out, blew it up, and put it up on this board, and that's just to support our request. And if you don't know about Sunrise, I encourage you to go to our website and find out about it, but I have a feeling most of you do know what it is. Sunrise is a social services agency. We do reach-out case management for young people. We do a lot of home visiting with young parents, helping them learn how to take care of their kids, keeping their families safe, helping them find housing, complete high school, and all those kinds of things. We have a lot of families in Pownal we work with. Our family advocates and our reach-out case managers are on the roads in Pownal all the time. So chances are everybody in this room knows somebody who's had a Sunrise worker. I have a few copies of our annual report, which I'd be happy I'll put them on the table over there, and if you want to take them or take a look at them after the meeting, that would be great. And I hope that you will vote to support Sunrise this year when you vote tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's a very worthwhile program, and I'm sure Amelia will be around after this meeting is over if anybody has direct questions for her. Good. Let's see. Shall the voters appropriate $2,500 towards the support of the program and services provided to the town by the Tutorial Center? Shall the voters appropriate $440 for the support of disability Vermonters in the Vermont Center for Independent Living? Shall the voters appropriate $11,000 towards the support of Visiting Nurse Association and Hospital? Shall the town voter vote to continue to exempt the Pownal Volunteer Rescue Squad and the Pownal Volunteer Fire Department property taxes on the following parcels? Pownal Rescue Squad building and land at 22 Land Road and Firehouse, and land located at 253 Route 346, 3137 Route 346, 2854 South Stream Road, and 2872 North Pownal Road. Article 27. Shall the town of Pownal voters approve the hiring of a town administrator or manager to work under the direction of the Board of Selectmen? Jim.
Finally. Need to talk to you guys. We won't be here a while. This petition was taken out by me personally. I am a member of the Planning Commission, but in no way do I represent the Planning Commission. I see some things down the road that I really don't like. I don't think a lot of people appreciate what these people do behind us, the selectmen. The amount of time involved, the amount of things they do, how they put people onto our boards, how they deal with some of the things coming down the pike, the recycling issues, dealing with the police, the sheriffs. For people that make $1,500 a year, have families, have full-time job, I think the plate's getting pretty damn full. And I'm going to quote probably Mr. Clements, the humorist. Talk around town for years has been, he said, most people talk about the weather, it's the most talked about thing, but least done about. Town manager, government in Pownal's been whispered about, talked about for years. And finally, it's here tonight to discuss. And to discuss. It's what you think. It's our town. We've got a lot of things going on. I don't think we're selling ourselves well. We have a lot of things that I think are positive. But even if these folks back in me had the expertise to do it, they damn sure don't have the time. Time, they're overworked. There's more meetings than you can shake a stick at. And they're getting more and more. I don't know what you do, but I think down the road, if you continue, have these people overworked and underpaid, you're gonna get a quality that's not in the Charlie Palmer or Timmy Holbrook type of people that we want appointing to our boards, our planning boards, and the people that are going to influence our town. If you come down to a point, you get the wrong people in the wrong place, you're going to have lawsuits. Just a bad image. Image is a problem here. But if we're going to become a bedroom community, I think we need a lot more bedrooms, particularly for our seniors. We need to know somebody who knows the ins and outs of grants. Like I say, if they had the expertise, they still don't have the time. I really don't think that we need a full-time town manager. If we could find someone that would share towns with us, a retired person that wants to get back in the game for a little bit, Pownal's not a bad town to play. We sit up above the very healthy northern Berkshires. Some things that could come to town, I think we could do well. One of the jewels here is a lot, if you people don't understand or don't think about, it's one of our jewels is our post office. Because a lot of people in Williamstown don't want to go on Spring Street. And they come up here and they have a fine parking and they have, you know. That part of Williamstown likes Pownal. They don't mind coming here. We have a lot of things that we're not selling to our image. And this is what it's what you think. I'm just bringing the subject up. Tomorrow, We'll find out. Good luck.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
Could you explain, though, the wording of this means that you're giving the board the approval to hire someone. When I first heard about this, I thought it was an advisory vote. And I have a problem with voting for this, to give them the carte blanche to hire someone without a discussion on funds, benefits, or anything like that. So I'd like someone to just explain, if this passes, what are we giving the board authorization to do?
Well, I would hope this board is a very intelligent bunch of guys, and I would hope they would sit down and get some kind of an independent group that would interview, like we do. Okay, we're going to have a new town, Nelson's not here tonight, but his job or whatever. The planning board interviews him, recommends, everybody makes recommendations to these folks back here. If they feel uncomfortable with interviewing somebody, actually, they're going to be hiring somebody that could be their boss, or vice versa. Vice versa. They would be the boss. So maybe they'll feel uncomfortable, maybe they go out, like we go out for a new town, for a principal. I was once here when we hired Terry Thompson. So we had 8 or 10 people that interviewed a bunch of people. You're going to put out notices in the proper magazines for people that might want to come here. And maybe tomorrow you'll say no. As far as money, I think there's money around here. There's a lot of questions to be asked about certain things. I don't want to open a can of worms right now, but I think there could be, $40,000, $50,000 for somebody with proper experience. But we don't know. What we're looking at is just you had to put something on there to come up with. A lot of towns have town administrators. Manchester does.
I just want to add to, if you hire somebody who's good at grant writing, a town manager, they're going to pay for their own salary.
Yeah, well, we missed a lot. We have missed a lot over the years.
I like what you said about being, a good community, but I want to remind people that there were some problems in this community. One being the issues with the trailer parks.
Yep.
And I talked about this.
Yep.
Recently, there was a young child in one of the trailer parks who was taken away. If any of you have, I've lived in this town for almost 30 years. This was the first time about a month ago that I had an opportunity to drive down to those trailer parks. I think you all should go. And I think should be a concern of every citizen in this town, that people are living in this community like that. So I think a town manager would certainly help.
Well, Mr. Keelan wrote an article in the Bennington Banner this week comparing us to some people with a lot of money in the Wall Street Journal and so on, and talking about this Karen. I've known Karen since she was born. I know a lot about it. I've been 37 years across from that trailer park. I've seen its great days, and I've seen what it is today. Circumstances, some people never had a chance the day they were born. It's sad to say that, and the older you get, the more you realize it. But we do our best. What we're talking about here is something very serious. We're talking about a gentleman that I would call, well, he's a man that makes money off of poor people. They call it a welfare pimp in some magazines. So maybe it's our fault that we allow a man that doesn't live here, and it's historically, people that own things, non-resident owners, they don't give a damn. I mean, I've got pictures showing when Skip Baker owned that trailer park. It was a swimming pool, it was nice, it was a great place. But a lot of things happened along the way. Applegate closed, they needed some place to put people. They reorganized, and a lot of people came down here. And this gentleman bought the piece of property. I'm going to say he makes $15,000 to $25,000 a month in that place. And Karen, you're one of the few people that went down there the other day, and you were shocked. I go there about twice a week for some things, and it is what it is. That's another issue. Yes, sir.
Jim, do we know comparable towns?
Once again, excuse me just a minute. But just, if you wouldn't mind giving your name so that people know who you are.
Dave Lowe, Mason Hill Road. Do we know of towns that are comparable in population and resources who have benefited from the town manager plan?
Chester, Vermont. I can go all over the place. Just reading the Rutland Herald today about what town managers throughout these small towns we're dealing with, and these folks are dealing with so much more. The issues here are, we've got a, you know, actually, if you could believe, we talk about change. When I first came to town, you wouldn't think of going into Hoosick River. And there's some people in New York thinking about drinking it. So we have come a long way. And whether we like it or not, we got the sewer system through bonds and grants, but primarily we got it because we were such polluters to the river. And the money came. I don't know since then it hasn't came. We got a water system in town, in some sections. There's bits and pieces, we've got some really good people, but it just seems like the selectmen are just, more and more is coming. Mandates, issues that I just don't think they have time for them, to do them well. And what's going to slip between the cracks of the grants, or the things that we're missing. I watch the nice people come in town with a dog grooming. Williamstown loves it. They bring all the dogs over here. Anything I don't think you can do in the Northern Berkshires, we could probably accommodate it. We have to identify some properties, go out for some grants, build us some elderly housing. There's 10 or 20 things here. I have no experience in all this, but I just want to say that what you vote for tomorrow, I think these folks here will sort it out. I would give them a blank check, okay? I trust them that much. And that's all I can say, is to get it in the open. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. Yeah, ma'am, shit.
I have no problem.
Just your name, please.
Joyce Pelch, Northwest Philly.
Thank you.
My challenge is very vague. You know, I could say to Ken, hey, shall we buy a new car? And he said yes, thinking I was going to buy a Volkswagen, and I come home with a Mercedes. So, you know, we're spending the taxpayers' money for paying this person, he or she. So I find it a little vague, and I would feel more comfortable if it said, shall the town of Pownal voters approve researching the hiring of a town administrator, and throw it back and say, let's research it. Let's see, you know, I did some research online, you know, the average salary could go all the way up to $120,000, and it could be as low as $8,000. Okay? So, but we really should know as a town, I feel, we really as taxpayers should know where our money's going. And I would love, I've always said that we needed someone in charge, and not take anything away from the selectmen, but, you know, somebody who's there, sees the goings on of the town, seeing where you can cut back, shave a little, where something needs to be something, you know. So I'm all for that, but I'm not for saying, go for it, guys, and
well, you should vote no. You should vote no. That would stop it, because all we want to do is open a discussion. Right now, we look like a town. I have to trust these folks that they'll sort it out and talk to their people and their advisors. Okay, so do me a favor. I'm just a little guy. Okay, I didn't write it well.
Okay. I think we get your point. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, right now we're town we're throwing darts at a board, hoping to hit something.
Gene Melville. So this ballot article has been put forth by a taxpayer, not by, I know the board has to endorse it.
Yeah.
But this is written up and drafted by a taxpayer.
Yes.
Not the board.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, myself. And you know, it's a non-binding resolution. I'm not sure how we want to frame it. All I wanted to do was get it out in the open. Because we're going to do like Einstein and just keep doing the same thing, pure insanity, and expecting different results.
Yes, we have another one.
Yeah, my name's Harold Perry. I think I'd like to have an update on the new town office building before we start talking about town
Sure,
manager.
we've got at least one of the selectmen want to speak on this issue, Jim's issue.
All
Would you like to go on a little, Jim, or?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It is a great point. I was always a firm believer that when the town starts handling millions of dollars, you know, it could be a good idea. And he's right, being a selectman, there's some of you out there that have already been one. I invite you to have new blood on this board every opportunity you get, you know, and do it. But this is vague, and I agree with you, Mrs. Held, on this, that I think an exploratory effort would have been better than saying, do we approve to hire somebody? Because we've never had this. We have to explore it, I think, before we put it before the townspeople to say yay or nay. Just my opinion.
Hey, opinion select, everybody's got one. That's brought it this far, Jim?
Jim Cousins. I was wondering, under other business that we approved in here, is it possible to just do a hand vote tonight to find out, as an advisory to the board, those that are interested in seeking to have a town manager in the future, gather the information?
Yeah, we certainly can. It's not official. We can get a consensus of the group. That's certainly within the confines.
We did this at Pownal Lodge.
Did we really?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to propose it, Jim? Or?
Yes, let's tie it on.
Well, let's do one thing at a time.
We got a motion kind of on the floor here. So, would you rather just have a show of hands?
Just a regular show of hands. How many people would support the selectmen seeking information on the possibility of a town manager? No, we just. Well, we can't have a regular motion. All we can have is consensus of the feeling. We can't approve any business here. All we can do is make a suggestion, and that's what we're calling for.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so what we want to do is just get a show of hands whether we would like to have the selectmen and the people's town kind of just a non-binding, what would you like to do? I don't know how to phrase this, but if you've approved of it, Tim, what do you think?
We can ask the selectmen to explore the possibilities and come up with some specific recommendations or figures concerning the hiring of a town manager.
I withdraw my motion, and I'll take Timmy's as the motion.
All right, all those in favor, just signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Very good. Okay, Jim. Thank you, Jim. Just 1 minute, please, man. Yes. You can't move it. It's on the ballot. Well, right, but all we're doing, just.
Tomorrow, your article is voted yes, yes.
Right.
No, it's no.
Right.
We're not changing the article.
No, we're not changing the article. Let's sit down and we can move ahead. Thank you, Jim. We're not changing the article. All we did was request that the selectmen explore the possibilities involved and the different things that should be considered in the town manager. But the article remains on the ballot. And we either vote, or you as an individual, either vote yes or no on it. And we had another question that involved, excuse me, sir, I've forgotten what you asked.
Barney? Yeah, my question was, any updates on the new town office building? That's why I said we shouldn't be discussing hiring a town manager when we have this big problem ahead of us.
Anybody select would like to speak on that?
One of my last official acts as chairman here. Okay, when I say we, I was not part of it because it was 11 o'clock in the morning. The town office committee and the fire marshal went to the Roost building owned by Mr. Chapman right up the road here. We're exploring the possibilities of whether that building would conform to a public building, which it kind of is now. Regardless if you have a new building or a repurposed building, you're going to have to build a safe. There is a question of that being 2 floors with the possibility of putting in not an elevator but a lift, okay, a single person lift. We are in negotiations with Mr. Chapman on price. We have not even gotten a price yet. We're in the talking stages of that. Also, the town office committee, Steve, if I'm not mistaken, is going to present once again a redraft version of the new town office. Am I speaking correctly here? Because I did speak with Frank Lamb.
You are.
On this.
You are.
Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, discussing revising.
Okay. Revising the plans for the new town hall on the old Bartel Lodge building. So we are exploring options. This board is moving forward carefully. This is a huge decision for you. It's a huge decision for a select board. It is something this town sorely needs. I don't know how many of you have visited our current office, but there's mold problems. There's a lot of things that we're up against the ADA. There was no handicapped accessibility. There was no emergency lighting. So we're spending a lot of money on an old building that we just as soon get out of and get into something. Now maybe it's the Roost, maybe it's a new building. That's up to you. Okay, but we're going to do our best as a select board, or they're going to do their best as a select board to bring you all the figures and the costs involved, etc., to use a repurposed building versus a new one, and you people will decide which way we go.
Correct.
Thank you. Just 1 minute. There was a lady that stood up back there. Do you still want to say? Okay, yes.
Timmy, Eugene Melville. Regarding the school bus capital fund, last town meeting, we voted $35,000 for a new bus from that fund. Now that account should be dissolved, I would assume. Is that revenue going to be returned to the general fund of the town? Now that we're out of the busing business?
It would be a school board decision, and I'm not sure what that situation is. Jim, can you speak to that? Jim Kozik he works in the central office in the finance area.
That money is in the jurisdiction of the school district. The school board has set that reserve. And that reserve will be with the school district until such time as the school board petitions to the townspeople of what they want to have done with that reserve fund. There's not related to the town at all. It's all school money. And so they cannot do anything with it without your permission. You'll see in the future at some time a ballot or inquiring something you want to happen with that one.
Do you have any idea what the balance in that fund is? My point is, we're already subsidizing the school system. We lost the best bus drivers in the county through this. We put the money up to buy the buses. The intent was to fund the buses, which isn't the intent now. And I would be resentful, and I think we all should, if this money is used to slush fund or to another interest-bearing fund that doesn't benefit the town.
Okay, thank you. I think the most appropriate place to address that issue would be to go to the next school board meeting and voice your opinion. They would be the ones who ultimately would make a decision as to what to do and probably bring it back to the voters.
Right. Just a brief scenario example. If the town wanted a new ambulance, we gave $100,000 for a new ambulance, they backed out of the deal, I would assume they would return the fund. We allocated it with the intention of the busing. We didn't get it. I insist that money be returned to the town and town taxpayers to help us level our general revenue fund.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes.
I have one comment.
Just 1 minute. Come right
This is a
back.
comment. Is there another business
Yes, there will be some other business.
later?
Yes. Yes.
So, continuing on in the book here, we come into the Solid Waste Alliance and so forth. I'm Tom Shuey, the Pownal Transfer Station Supervisor. I have a few things I would like to let everybody know that we're not available.
Yeah, come on over here and use the mic. I didn't introduce yourself.
I'm Tom Shuey, the Pownal Transfer Station Supervisor. There's a couple of things that I found out since the book went to press. One of the things is one we're going to be voting on is a Green Up Day, the $200. The date for Green Up Vermont is going to be the 7th of May. And I would like to have anybody that has friends or get your neighbors or work together and clean up a section of road around the town and bring it up to the transfer station, and we'll accept everything free of charge. And I've already talked to Dave Lowe about doing some things, and I want everybody to know about that. The other thing is our Household Hazardous Waste Day is the following Saturday in Bennington, and that is from 8 o'clock until noon. So if you have paints, any kind of things, gasolines, oils, anything that has a skull and crossbones on or whatever, please take it up to Bennington that day and they'll properly dispose of it. Yes.
Tom, I'm glad you brought this up because every time I drive into the school, near your way out, there's a little trail that sits across the street here with a bunch of rubbish in it. It's a burned out little camper, black bags in it. And you get a Sunday town, that's a hell of a way to come to school with your kids every day. Maybe we get somebody to pick that up.
Well, perhaps.
Just for people going to the daycare and to school. Look at it on your way out.
Well, perhaps we can. Or we can talk to the highway department in conjunction with the transfer station. Maybe we can get it cleaned up. That's it.
Now, so last year, in May.
Want to just identify yourself?
Deacon Rand. Last year in May, we did a cleanup down on Indian Massacre Road, which is a very beautiful spot, and historically significant, interesting. But people seem to think that, over the bank is just a dump. So this year, I think we're going to go along the Dark Hollow. Darkwoods Road from Country Auto on to along that road there. But yes, I heard some comments today that about Pownal's image, and that's a real bad sign, a real bad indicator of how we feel about where we live, when we can just dump our garbage over the bank. And I encourage everybody, A, to pick up as you walk, which I do whenever I walk, and it's the only way to keep it clean. And B, if you ever catch anybody, fine, gosh, write their number down, get them, nail them, and if we get a constable, we should have him on that case. But anyway, okay, so we're calling our little group Pownal Cares, and what we do is we'll clean up a neighborhood, when we choose, but we insist that if you want your neighborhood cleaned up or your particular road, you got to provide at least 3 volunteers to help. So there are people doing it. Don't give up. And in fact, there's a kid, a young man over on Ladd Road. Don't know his name, but he's a teenager. Whoever he is, my new hero. So, there are people who do it and care, and that's the only way. We can't afford to pay for it.
Crystal Gardner again. I'm glad to know that you have a community reach out thing for cleanup. I grew up in Arlington, and on cleanup day, we had all the school kids come. There was a group who organized it. They went and hid spiders over town, and each group took a section, and there were rewards for the nastiest thing you brought back. We made it fun, and our kids went and did it, and they appreciated it because it was their town. If they're going to be brought up here, it's nice to include them as well. I mean, here I am from the Pownal Youth Baseball, Try to find a way to take that $200 and bring the community in. I always know when you drive through Arlington, there's green trash bags along the side of the road. The kids were out there cleaning.
Well, the $200 goes towards the bags and other things we get, and then I have to do the reports and so forth to them and everything, and they send me a lot of information. But I just got this information last week because I called to find out, because I wanted to share this with everybody here at the town meeting. And then one other thing I still have some surveys for the BCRC surveys on recycling. There's some over here. I'm going to have some more at the polls tomorrow. If you want to take one with you, you can drop it off the transfer station or drop it off the town hall until basically March 15th. And then I've got to compile those and get those up to the BCRC. But it's been a lot of fun working at the transfer station this year, and I've learned an awful lot. And I've met a lot of you folks up there, and it's been a great experience for me. And we're going to keep at it. We're really going to keep at it. So, thank you very much.
Jim, yes.
The other day I was alerted, a girl came into my store and the kids were walking, and they said, Jim, there's a bag of needles just south of the post office. So alert your people that could happen. And the transfer station's taking in some also. So
That's good.
be aware.
That's a good point. If there is any other business, yeah. Okay, wait a minute, then we'll come back to, go ahead, yes. Go ahead, yep.
Dave, just a question, Rich or others, as we're concerned about our neighbors in Hoosick and North Hoosick and Petersburg, North Bennington, how concerned should we be, or are we looking into the PFOA water quality situation for Pownal?
I'm not aware of any problems in the industries that we did have in town, such as the tannery, have been long gone, the lagoons are capped. You know, I think if there's any concern, it would have to be in the valley in North Pownal, I would think, because there has been no industry on the east side of town that I'm aware of that produced any type of carcinogen or toxin. And I think, well, I know the water system down in North Pownal, that water has to be tested quite often, and I don't see Dorothy here tonight, but Dorothy could speak on that. There's rigorous testing for the water system, that I know. And they have to adhere, and whether they're testing for that, I don't know. This is all new to us. But the majority of the people in Pownal, I think, have private wells, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, well.
One of my other fun chores is I get to be involved with the Bennington County Regional Commission. And we've been doing brownfields work, looking at old industrial sites, and we've looked at a number in Pownal. And the state has a registry of all the known businesses that have ever been here, which is available on the state resource library through the Department of whatever, Environmental Protection or whatever they're calling themselves. So there is a database in Pownal to show the facilities that once were here, as far as the state knows, and what the potential problems were, if any, associated with any of those facilities. Also, the State Department of Health keeps records of any water testing that was done. When I bought my property, one of the things I insisted on doing was having a complete spectrum of water done, everything under the sun tested. Well, if you do that in the state does that work, then that goes into the state database also. So that's another resource that we have available to us, that there are state water records as far as the testing that's been done by the state to know what has been found and what has not been found. And if there's anything suspect or places to look, they would know about it. So there's some resources out there. But generally speaking, I feel pretty good about most places around. The main issue that I get concerned with in the area is radon. Radon shows up periodically, although don't ask me for any specific locations. I know that is one of the things that does happen around here. So I hope that helps. But there are resources, and the guy to go to is Jim Henderson at Bennington County Regional Commission. He is the map guy, and he has the access to the various databases if anybody really needs information or is curious about what might have been around the property at one point in time. I think he can help you out.
Thank you. Henry, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to speak on the green up date. Crystal, 15 years ago, town of Pownal done exactly what you're saying you folks did. At that time, we had the 4-H clubs that was in here, Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts, and I even think a few of the ball teams and so on. But all the kids got involved in it, and at that time, we went ahead and gave out, I believe it was tickets. Any child that got involved and picked up some of the trash alongside the road, they got free ice cream and a few other things. And I think that was, and it had to have been at least 15 years ago. Maybe Jim can help me fill in that, but I know it's a long time back. Okay, so you are absolutely right. We need to go ahead and get the kids involved, and I'm sure that the Board of Selectmen here will see to it that town trucks or whatever is needed would help pick up the trash. I'm glad you brought it up.
Thank you. Thank you. If there is no other business, I know, yes, excuse me.
I'm Joanna Crowley, and I have a concern, talk about our beautiful town of
Get right up.
Okay.
If you turn around and face the audience.
Okay, all right. Joanne Prouty. I live up on Barbers Pond Road, and I'm concerned about some of the vacant houses that are around. We have a house on Barbers Pond Road and Pudding Stone on the corner. And they have parties, people break in, the doors are open, the roof is coming down, there's, it looks ugly. And I know that the person who left this place there's a bank that owns it now. And so I think we need to put a little pressure there for them to make sure it's boarded up, cleaned up on a regular basis, because that's not the only place that's empty. We got one right out here by the school that's empty. And it's just asking for trouble. And I would like to see that taken up. The other thing I wanted to point out that since we've had the sheriffs, we have a lot of traffic on Barbers Pond Road. And cars go very fast. But the sheriffs have been trying to get a handle on that. Sometimes we see them sitting around and so on, and I know that they do stop quite a few people. And I was just wondering where the money that they bring forth to the town, where does that go? I'm just curious about that.
Okay, very good.
Since we've hired the Bennington County Sheriffs, we've gotten our first check back from the state for over $600. We never had that when we had a constable. The Bennington County Sheriffs is active in patrolling the back roads. We've had requests, I think it was over by Montgomery Road, to lower the speed limit. We lowered it to 35, or we posted it for 35, which was never posted. So with signage and the presence of the Bennington County Sheriff's Department, we're doing a great job. Ellen, what can you just elaborate on to where that money goes? Does it go in the general fund?
The money from the fines, whether we have a constable or a sheriff's department or whoever, goes into the general fund, and it offsets the expenses of our general fund. It's a revenue aid.
By the way, too, we do get a monthly report from the Bennington County Sheriff's Department explaining stops, explaining property checks, pretty much everything they do. It's a pretty extensive list. I think the town of Pownal is being protected better now than it ever was, and I think these guys are doing a great job, the Bennington County Sheriffs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just have one other thing. My son-in-law, Todd Steinhoff, is running for school board, so I would like to have you. He has 2 boys at school.
That's all right.
And,
This is not a time to okay. But you got it in anyway. Yes.
Just a quick follow-up. My name is Barbara Blair. Can the board have a, like a meeting to follow up with her question regarding the house that is at the end of my road? Do you have authority to contact the bank? How do you proceed with this specifically? Because it hasn't been mowed and it is horrific. And
You'd have to go through the zoning administrator because it would have to be decided whether it was a health issue or not.
you can't contact the bank, or can we find out who the bank that houses this rundown property?
Wait, just Karen has something that she feels appropriate.
The bank actually doesn't own that property yet. The owner was Mr. Nuno, and he just walked away from it. And last thing I heard was that he was deceased. Now the bank at this point in time, happens all the time. Most of the houses are all speaking about the original mortgage or that lent them the money has assigned that house over and over and over to different banks. We can barely keep track of who owns it now. And it's always like some California, Montana, Wyoming. Well, that they really own the house, but they haven't transferred it completely, you're right. Mr. Nuno's name is still my record owner. They haven't they haven't completed a foreclosure action.
I guess the question would be, do you send a bill, a tax bill?
We send it to, Ellen has to send it to the record owner. And of course it comes back. But that's what we have to do. We can't send
The
it.
bank pays the taxes on that property that you're talking about.
The bank does?
The bank pays it every year.
Okay. You know who the bank is that pays it?
It comes in with a group of, I get a list from, I get a list of properties and a bundle of checks from a tax service. They use a tax service that doesn't come directly from a bank.
You've got to point
Banks hire a tax service. Your mortgage companies, a lot of mortgage companies hire a tax service. A lot of your people, whoever has a mortgage and your money's escrowed, it comes to me in this bulk check with your parcel ID and your name. That's it. That's what I have.
I think the point that you made is a legitimate one, and I'm sure that the selectmen have heard it and will consider your request to look into vacant properties that are eyesore. Is there any other business? I know that we have our representative Bill Lotso is here someplace. Bill, over there, and he wants to have a few words. Karen has just reminded me that we have road reports on the table. Casey, is that right? Okay. And what are they? What's a road report? Did everybody hear that? Casey, why don't you come up and say it? I mean, it's an interesting thing that he's put together. I know he just dying to get up here and speak to you.
Road reports on that table there, so that. And it's about 10 pages of anticipated projects we're going to do for the next couple of years, and it's kind of brief, but in a way it's not.
Well, that's very informative. Thank you, Casey. Charlie, did you want to say something?
Can I ask the road commissioner a question?
Sure.
I would like to know, by the last time the road was spring to Pownal this year, you went up the west side of the river River, but you never came down to Arctic. I wish you'd drive in and see the potholes that are there. I think we got the roughest road now.
Okay. Fine. You're registered. If there are no other comments, I'll turn this over to Bill. Priscilla, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Okay. I'm not going up there because I'm in my wheelchair.
This is,
But I've lived in this town for 62 years, and I have never been so ashamed of the properties around here. It's not just the roadsides that need cleaning up. You go up on French Hill, you go down Old Pownal Center Road, every place. Honestly, can't something be done about these people cleaning up their property? Who wants to move into this town? What industry or business wants to come here? It's a mess.
Thank you.
I know every town has a problem, but it's a damn mess. And I'm sick of seeing it. And I'm sick, I close my eyes when I go to the town. And we've had that mess for 30 years. And nothing's done about it. It's about time somebody can get some grants for low-income housing, or do something about it. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, you people that can't clean up their own property.
okay.
Nothing but messes. Crackers.
Okay, good evening. It's good to be here instead of in Montpelier. And, I was very happy, when I first was here earlier, say around, just as the school board meeting opened, as the parking lot wasn't very full, and I was sort of worried people weren't paying attention. So I go up to Woodford, and they bring their greetings, and they have a good meeting too. And then when I came back, it was hard to find a parking spot, and that's a good sign. And I think every year I see so many of you, but I also see some new faces here. And you are the town. You are the ones who express both your hopes. I think everybody here wants to make the town better. They may have different ways to do it, but that is why we're here. And I would like to take a moment just to really thank those who work for us, for the town, all of it here at the table, and those that are in the back, and all of you for the hard work that you have to do. And I say it's hard because I think we all understand that running a town is not getting less complicated, it's getting more complicated as the world gets more complicated. And I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate so much, how all of you will stay in touch with me when you need information, or if you have thoughts about what we should be advancing, to the State House, and the same for all of you. So I want to start just a few simple housekeeping things. Is that, as you know, every year I do write a town meeting report. It's over here. I will have it also tomorrow, and it covers many of the things that the legislature has been working on in the first half of the biennium. We are at the halfway point now, in which bills that have been in the Senate will start coming over, and bills that we have in the House, we'll be sending them over to the Senate, for review. I also have, and every year this happens, and I find it's highly unscientific poll, but there is a town meeting day survey that Senator Bill Doyle puts out every year, and he does it with his students. He is still teaching, connected to Johnson State College, and I urge you to fill that out. And what I do is I collect them, and I tabulate them and make sure you get to know what you voted in your town, rather than just seeing overall what the state did. Because I think same for Woodford, same for you. And the more people who participate, it is, the more accurate it might be. So I would urge that on you. Finally, I think for many of you, your email addresses may have changed. And I still, every week, write my Montpelier notes, and I put in it, what did we actually do this week? What came to the floor of the House, what was voted, what bills went forward. I find it very useful, and I try to cover all the bills that you won't see in the newspaper, because some of them affect you. And you may well want to get back to me and basically say, well, Bill, there's this part of it that isn't quite what I was thinking, or you may say, that is a good bill, make sure it gets through the Senate. So if you aren't getting that email, is that my address is on the information is on here, and just send me an email. Some of yours may have changed. You changed providers. If you don't let me know, I have no way of knowing. Some of you may have to occasionally look in your spam folders because of all of those protocols. So that's just basically my housekeeping. Yeah, just a few things I wanted to touch on that might be a little different than in the past is that this year, every year, the most important bill that is done is the budget. And the budget bill, last year I spoke to you about how we are working to do everything we could is to make sure that the rate of growth in the spending matches the background rate of growth that we see. And there's always a little inflation or whatever in revenues. And to try to bring those together instead of it just keep going apart and then you come back. Because we do pass a balanced budget every year, but we do know there is built into it such things as pay raises for people, etc. that are going to mean you have to come back next year. And we do want to do it as much as we can without using one-time funds. We recently went through a big recession, and there are a lot of lingering pieces to it. The houses that you see around town that are basically abandoned, that is an effect of the recession. That was driven by the housing market and people having mortgages they couldn't keep. And yes, the banks are another example of an absentee landowner, and I think it was Jimmy mentioned that earlier, being pretty hard on some of our housing that is in our mobile home parks. During that recession, there were some federal funds that represent one-time money as they go away. So you saw a growth in the budget that now has to be brought back. We can't do everything all the time. This year, what was really interesting, mostly you go up there and you go into your committee and your goal is to pass good bills. And in a sense, each bill represents like, oh, what did I get done? What did I accomplish? But this year, the speaker asked us to do something different. He said, take the first 3 weeks of the session, and I want every committee to go and review every program for all of the departments and agencies that you have oversight over. And to ask them 3 questions. What do you actually do? 2, how well are you doing it? And the third one, is anybody better off? Those are pretty key questions if you want to have good government. And so we've been doing that, and that will now inform the Appropriations Committee in making their choices on balancing the budget. My committee, Commerce and Economic Development, we basically have oversight over consumer protection at the Attorney General. We have over all of the Department of Labor for all of its laws, workers' compensation, workforce development, all of those pieces that are pretty key to all of your lives. We also have the Department of Financial Regulation, which is, in this country, one of the best departments of financial regulation that I hear, when I have to go outside the state and hear about it. And they are big contributors, actually, to the general fund. And the people who are making the contributions, they appreciate how well we do the regulation. They don't resist it. They actually like it, that they can stay close to the people that they're working with and that we can have modern, updated laws. We also have the Agency of Commerce Community Development. Tons of programs there, all the way from barn grants up to various kinds of community development grants that we use here and elsewhere. We also have their tourism and marketing, all the various ways that we try to increase the revenues of the state. We also have the telecommunications piece. In a lot of town, that's a sweet spot. In a lot of towns, it's a sore spot in this town itself. And we do keep going to try. There's a whole corners of the town that really do not have adequate broadband coverage. What they have isn't quite good enough. We also know that the amount of data that people want is doubling just about all the time. I'm not going to give you specific data because I'd like to get it straight. but it's growing exponentially, and it's important for education, healthcare, all of this pieces. And the resources for it that the state has are pretty limited, because that's private sector, as it should be. The idea was competition would get you more choices, whether it was Comcast or Fairpoint, or even satellite, or now VTEL or others coming in. But we don't have the levers that we used to have for utilities like electricity, etc. So that's a lot of what we did, is when we go through it, we said, these are your most critical things, such as the Department of Financial Regulation, fund them. We looked at other things as they're very important, other things, well, they're good to do, and other things, well, maybe we ought to take a look or not do it. And so that was a big work of the first part of the session. There's another bill I've been working on that I think's been out there for a long time. It has to do with workers' compensation. And it has to do with misclassification of workers, and it has to do with independent contractors. And throughout Vermont, there are a lot of people who are working, many of you even, who are working for, as sole, just you yourself, and you are being shut out of jobs because the general contractor doesn't want to hire you. You don't have to have workers' comp if you're a sole proprietor. But that general contractor, according to the law, the way it is now, can get stuck with having to pay for you, so he's just not hiring you. We're trying to fix that. So that's an example of what we do. We have teed up another economic development bill, another consumer protection bill. I'd like to get some more work on telecommunications done, and we have an insurance bill going, a few other things along that line. One thing I want to touch on, because a lot of you have mentioned it to me, is the Senate has been working all through the fall on a marijuana bill. And I'm sure a lot of you, like me, have really a lot of thoughts on that, wherever you are on it. What I want to tell you is that I've waited until the Senate comes forward with a bill, which they did, I think, last Thursday or so. It hasn't even come to the House yet. The House is being very reserved about this bill. It is not all gung-ho to pass it and go, go, go. Its job, in a sense, is now the jury. Is that you've had the proponents have come up with it. What I think the best thing to do for me is to make sure I understand what all of you think. I think the best thing for me to do is to make sure you understand what the bill actually is. Because you may think it does this and it actually doesn't do that. You may think that it is all about making sure marijuana is prevalent everywhere. It doesn't do that necessarily. It's very much of a highly regulatory bill. You may like that, you may not like that. But now it's up to the House's turn to look at it. I cannot guarantee you that that bill is going to go through before the end of the session. And that might be a wise choice. We'll see. There's a lot of people there who are thinking about it. There are models in other states. I think I'm going to send you, this is where my email letters are pretty helpful, I'm going to send you the information that I have of people who have done summaries. I'm going to send you the actual bill yourself. All of you who show up, you're involved citizens for this town and for this state. And I would like to make sure that all of you have a chance to really see it, understand it, think about it. I'm well aware of the concerns that come from a variety of places. And I'm well aware of what people have wanted. So I just wanted to mention that because I think towns are having that discussion throughout the state. And I think you should know that that's out there. There are many, many other issues. I've tried to cover them, most of them, the usual ones in this letter. You may have a lot of questions for me. I will stay here until you're through, and I will be at the polls all day tomorrow to listen to you, about for an hour and a half or so. So I can also talk with you. It really helps me a lot to understand what you're thinking and to try to get you information in case you have questions. I think we're all have very important principles, and I think we also try to keep our minds open to understanding what actually happens, and our job is really looking forward. What I want to say about that is one of the things that concerns me the most for us to keep our eye on is the changing workplace and the changing population called demographics. Is that if you look around this room and you look throughout Vermont, In about 10 to 15 years, the people who are in the workforce now are not going to be, except for a few. We need to be working to attract people and training people who can be in the workforce. I do not necessarily think that we have our education system completely right. We're very fortunate. Our director of our career technical education locally, Jim Boutin, is chair of that board. He gets it, as do Mike Lawler and others, but there are a lot of pieces we have to work for so that people have a chance to do well in the workplace going forward. And that's a lot of what I pay attention to, because I think, like you, I want Vermont to thrive, and I want Pownal to thrive. And I think it's worth it. This is a place worth caring about. Okay, and I'm happy to have some questions and look forward to it. I think you have one.
I do.
Good evening.
Marlena Paul on Niles School Road. My question is, what is the end game of the Senate bill regarding marijuana? I had the honor of talking with you last month when you came down.
What is the end game?
The end game, because you know that the state cut behavioral health out of the budget this year. You know that Medicaid only gave us 0.5%. You know we have increased needs to treat people with opiate substance abuse and potentially marijuana abuse down the road.
Yes.
We don't have funds in place to support the ever-growing needs. We have residents on long wait lists to get services.
Yes.
So now you're going to throw legalized marijuana into the mix. What's the end game of that? Are you hoping from some sort of revenue source that you're then going to shell out to the 17 designated agencies around the state to help pay for caseworkers and therapists and get people off wait lists so that people can get services they need, along with decreasing the prison population and giving them alternative means to prison? I just read through Senator Doyle's questionnaire.
Yes.
There's at least 5 things on there that are directly tied to behavioral health. There's no funding in place for it.
Yes.
So what is the end game? That's all I want to know. What is the end game of legalizing this?
I think you're asking the right question. I don't think anybody knows the answer. But you're...
Why legalize it? We don't know the answer, so let's just bring
No,
it
what is the end? I'm trying to give you the answer I know best. There are many end games. Is the end game that the bill will pass? Is the end game that how would revenue be used? No, I don't know the answer to those questions because nobody knows in that sense. There are those that think, whether you agree with them or not, that, and I'm not sure I do, is that by doing this you raise money to take care of opiates and behavioral health. Whether that's true or not, some people think that, some don't. I think healthy skepticism is always a good idea. Okay, I think you're absolutely right about the sense of how are we going to deal with present crises before we create potentially other ones. You know, I mean, I can go and tell you what I hear, what various other people think about it, you know, along the line. I think it's really important for me to send you the bill. It's brand new passed, and for you to read it. And before you make up your mind, or if you've made up your mind, to go through it and say, what are your real concerns? The most recent one I heard is it does allow some advertising. I'm not sure advertising of a substance like that is a good idea. You know? So, but it doesn't allow advertising targeted at kids. So there are all of these kinds of choices, and it's pretty interesting. I'll tell you other things. You know, what has happened in the states that have done it, they are now, for that part, they are cash economies. Now, if you understand how taxes are collected, it's really different collecting taxes off a cash economy than it is off of one where there's a paper trail with credit and all of those kinds of things. And somebody who's working in the banking insurance area would look at that. And these are concerns above and beyond what are we saying, what is the message, what about young people, what about the opiate crisis, all of those things. So my point is, there's a tremendous amount to it, and I really appreciate hearing from you, for you to say, these are the balls I want you to keep your eye on. And I hope that helps.
Spoken like a true politician.
I am a politician, you know, obviously. Some people think that is a very bad thing. Some people think it's not so bad. You know, I'm also an artist. Some people think that's suspect. You know? But when I tell you what I am, is somebody who really does commit to trying to listen to you and to understand where you're coming from and be willing, after really thinking it through and listening to you, making choices. And I think hopefully that is what goes best, and that is what you want out of your select board, that's what you want out of all of your town people, and that's what we want out of each other. And I think that is what we should aim for. There is no vote tomorrow for me to tell you how I would vote on that. There's no bill that's come through the House, and I don't even know what it is, and I don't even know if a bill's going to come through the House. Like I said, I don't think it's the most important thing to pay attention to. For me, the most important thing to pay attention to is how are we going to earn our livelihood, and how are we going to make sure that the generations that come behind us are going to earn their livelihood, considering they work differently and the workplace treats them differently, and that the basic supports that are there and that the innovations can happen. That's what I care about. Are there other questions? Everybody ready to go home? I'm sorry if I've kept you too long. I really appreciate seeing you. I hope you have a good night, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We have a lot of votes tomorrow. Remember, there is this little presidential primary going on. Everybody's looking at the South, but we're voting too. So go give it your best vote. Good night.
We just need a motion to adjourn, so I will accept it. Second, everybody else, good, we're free.